For those of you that's on Zoom, little house cleaning items here. If you want to speak during the public hearing or the public comment period, which is at the front of our agenda, please unmute yourself and identify yourself so that we can then record you, and then we'll call on you in rotation. Anyone? Hearing no one on Zoom. Going once, going twice, sold. So, and Susan, do I have anybody in here for, okay, so. All right. All right, we'll call the Harrison County Commission to order. If you'll please rise and join me, I'll do the invocation followed by the pledge to the flag. Dear Lord, I pray that you guide us always, satisfy the needs and that needs to be met during this meeting. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions. I pray that we will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose water never fail. I pray that we will be fruitful. Father, please guide us so that this meeting can be productive, and let us be effective and decisive. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First item that we have is 10:05 bid opening for the annex. Mr. Parker, I got 10:06. What is the official time? 10:06?
Yeah, the bids were to be here by 10 o'clock, so we received 5 different sets of envelopes.
All right, if you'll bring them forward.
We need to, if we could, open envelope number 1 for each bidder, because they're supposed to have certain criteria in that before we go into the bid. So if you want, I and Mr. Moore can do those to see before we proceed.
We just want it to be in the sunshine.
It'll be right here. Mike,
identify for the record who Mike Moore is.
Mike Moore is with Filling Associates, our architectural engineering firm. Come on up, Mike, and have a full chair. The bidders are supposed to submit their contractor's license, drug-free workplace, and West Virginia purchasing affidavit with the envelope number 1, and this is from Raycon Construction out of Pittsburgh. They have submitted the necessary, so.
Willie, this is not the way we've normally done it, and
yeah, they've used a 2-envelope system is what we did here, just instead of, to make sure they're eligible before we would open their bid is the purpose of this.
So they could have submitted that stuff
Could have
in
submitted
advance.
it with everything else and then sorted through it. The next one is Mark's Landau Construction out of Wexford, PA. They do have everything submitted in the envelope number 1. Next one is PJ Dick out of Pittsburgh, PA. Required documents are submitted in envelope 1. Next bid is GITO, Jito,
Hello.
doing business as Nello Construction out of Carnegie, Pennsylvania. Nelllo. I do have the required documents in the envelope one. The last one is, the Albert M. Higley Company LLC out of Pittsburgh, PA. And they also have all the required documentation. All 5 bidders met that requirement. There are some items we normally would check to make sure they have a bid bond, reference the addendums, the alternates, there's 2 alternates, unit price, a base bid, and then a total bid with the 2 alternates.
You want to put them down?
Yeah.
Yes, all of them are eligible to be
Well,
open.
what we do, Patsy, is, you open it and, identify who it is, what their, cost is, and do we have alternates on these?
Yes,
And then identify the price for each of the alternates. So, no, hold on, just do one at a time so that you don't get them mixed up. All right, you can be first and go through that. You got who? Probably on the top, no, on the envelope, the outside.
Nello Construction. It's for $16,167,000.
Okay, go ahead through that and see if there's alternates. How many alternates do we have, or do we not know?
there's 2 alternates.
Okay, so you should have 2 alternates, and each one of them should have a price on it.
Was that the total, bid including alternates that you read?
I'm not sure.
We agree to perform the work required to pay the work at Harrison County General Service Building, Clarksburg, West Virginia, all accordance with the construction document with the sum of, does that include everything?
That's what I'm not sure.
Where you going?
I think this right here, let Mike see these, it's just the base bid. I have a question as their bidding documents. They did reference all they have the bid bond, submitted. They referenced all the addendums. And the way I read that is they're additive alternates, that's the base bid plus the 2 alternates. Contractors here, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the base bid plus then the 2 alternates.
The add alternate 1 is for the amount of $75,000. Add alternate 2 is for $80,000.
All right, so we
And
got the 16,000 or something as the base bid, right?
Yes, 16,167,000
Yeah.
as the base bid,
16,165,167.
167, yes. And then the unit price for soil excavation is at $80 per cubic yard.
All right, if you all put that back in that envelope, because it'll all be going back to committee for comparing all these. All right, Commissioner Hinkle.
I have A.M. Higley, $16,320,000. Price per cubic yard, $91. Add alternate one, $15,000. Alternate two, $68,000.
Can you read the base bid one more time, please?
$16,320,000.
Thank you.
All right. Willie, you and Mike recorded that?
Yes.
Okay. Patsy, next one.
Yeah, we have Raycon, it is $15,496,000 with a unit price of $61, with an alternate of $30,000 and a second alternate of $68,000.
That was, who was that again?
Make sure I'm saying it right. RYCON? Rycon. Rycon.
What was the base bid again, if you could read that, I didn't.
Total bid is $15,496,000.
You guys got that?
Yes.
All right, David.
This is P.J. Dick. Their base bid is $15,787,000. Their price per cubic yard is 80. Alternate one, 65,000. Alternate two, 74,000.
All right. And last but not least,
This is Mark Landau. Base bid, $16,260,000. Price per cubic yard, 85. Alt one, 0. Alt two, 67,000.
all right, that's the five that, that we have, and all five will go back to committee. Committee will then compare apples with apples to make sure all the terms and conditions have been met with the contract requests. And Mr. Parker will bring that back at the next meeting for award or for committee's recommendation.
Yeah, we, probably be a little bit longer than that, because we have to finish and finalize, financing arrangements and get those in place before we would award the bid. So it'll be probably a few meetings before that would happen.
All right.
Uh,
Any questions from the contractors that are here? Stay tuned, and Mr. Parker will let you know when it's going to be on the agenda.
we'll get, right now, it appears the apparent low bidder is Raycon, if my math was correct, at $15,594,000 total.
What's the second? Just, I know the others were 16 million, not counting alternatives.
Second, possibly, is P.J. Dick, which, let me do a quick math here.
Are you adding the alternates in?
Yes, that's total with alternates.
So the one was 15,500,000 with,
15,496,000 plus the alternate was 15,594,000. And I did the math quicker than I did. Yeah, we got it listed, yeah. The second parent lowest bidder right now is P.J. Dick, 15,926,000. Then third would be Nello at 16,322,000. Marks Landau, 16,327,000. And then Higley at 16,403,000.
so the low bidder, and then the next one would be $1.5 million difference?
No. Just over 300,000.
Okay, that sounds a little better.
Those
Yeah.
are with the two ad alternates. That's
Those
the
are
base
with-
bid plus the two ad alternates for those
Yeah.
numbers.
Just trying to get some, sense
Yeah,
of, what we're looking
Between the high and the low, there's, $800,000 in round numbers difference. That is a close bid, that's a very close
Yeah.
bid.
at. Okay. All right. Hearing nothing from the bidders, thank you all very much. Okay. All right, we'll move on with, 10:15, Ms. Rockwell.
Where do you want me?
We'll let Mike and them get up and,
Okay.
Mr. Attorney, you're welcome.
That'd be all right.
Okay.
Come on up. Pull up the chair. There.
Here, Bob.
Thank you, sir.
All right, identify yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
I am Virginia Rockwell. I am chairman of the Harrison County Republican Executive Committee. And we hired Greer Law, Bob Greer, to oversee all of the election proceedings for us this year, since this was an unprecedented election. And I will turn it over to Bob.
Thank you. Good morning. I appreciate this opportunity to appear before the commission and be here with the county clerk. As everybody in this room knows, the challenges in this primary election at least haven't been dealt with in the last 100 years, or during our lifetimes, with the pandemic and the moving of the primary from May to June, the consolidation of polling places, and the unprecedented, I think, it's hard to imagine there's ever been more absentee ballots cast in any single election, at least in Harrison County, although I haven't done any research on that subject. It just empirically appeared to be that way. What I did, and with your all's permission, it was to observe, maintain notes of what I saw, and then I distilled that down into a report, which I tried to be as objective as possible in those observations. And I have a copy of my report and a cover letter to the three commissioners and to the clerk. I'll give those to the administrator. I'm not going to read you the report necessarily, but I think that the hope from my perspective and that of my client is that as we move forward, as we left the June election, I think everybody's expectation was the pandemic was getting better, we were headed in the right direction, and we would not have to do for the general election in November what we had to deal with in the primary. I don't know that as we sit here today that is still the expectation as the number of infections and the growth of the coronavirus within our community fluctuates, and it seems to be on the uptick. What I have placed in my letter is some areas that I think could be improved upon, as well as, an offer to participate if the commission and the county clerk choose to, establish a committee to look for additional best practices or ways to improve the process. I think what's not in the letter and what everybody here understands is we need to communicate better in advance. And now that we've been through the process once, everybody, I think, will have a better understanding of what they're encountering. Who would have ever imagined that the voter turnout would be what it was, that the absentee ballots wouldn't read in the machines when they were folded the way they were folded? That whole process of having 800 ballots on election night, I think, couldn't be anticipated and couldn't have been dealt with, I don't think, any better than it was. But it called into some areas where we went from 2 counting teams to, and I'm sorry as I play with my mask, I'm not, this is all new to me too, to 5 teams, just to get that process completed on election day instead of sometime in the wee hours of the morning after that. And as I said in my letter, I think we give kudos to those employees of the clerk and the county commission who readily came to the aid of the ballot commissioners and the canvassing board. They were placed in a very difficult situation, having to really learn on the fly in some instances what their responsibilities were and what they had to do. And I thought they did an admirable job with that. That said, specifically, we would like to see, and I think subjectively all of us heard about the man that walked from Monticello to the courthouse on election day, and then when advised that he had to walk to RCB to cast a ballot, we don't know if he ever got there or not. That polling places need to be as close as we can get them to their current location, and we probably need more than 7 locations. It's not an attempt to second guess. I think the clerk and the ballot commissioners anticipated as best they could, but our recommendation is that we need at least 30 of those locations, and to the extent that 67 precincts are somehow consolidated, and I don't know if you can do that between now and the general election or not, but that we make or try and find some alternate ways to let the voters know exactly what precinct they're in and where those precincts are, because as we found in the provisional ballots, if you showed up at the wrong location, even if you were registered in South Harrison District, but belonged to Quiet Dell, your ballot was cast on a provisional basis and was ultimately not counted, because the West Virginia Code requires that you appear at your precinct. The other major, it's not major, I didn't find it until I was preparing my report, and you may want to revisit it, but the number of ballots that were counted as provisional ballots on Monday morning of the canvass did not seem to match up with the number of provisional ballots that were identified as part of the canvassing numbers that came out on Thursday. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at. It's a question of just a few ballots, but for instance, on Monday morning we counted, I observed 11, and we'll just pull out of the report the Quiet Dell. There were 11 provisional ballots cast. 8 of them were counted. 3 of them were not counted. But when we tried to canvass to the 2,000 vote ballot count that was part of that ballots that were shipped to that balloting location. My notation is that we identified that there were 19 provisional ballots that were assigned or identified as part of that polling location. So somewhere there were 8 ballots that either I didn't hear how we dealt with them on Monday morning, which is entirely possible. There's human error in all of this, or somehow that number changed over time between Monday and Thursday. And I think that those kinds of things from a retrospective standpoint need to be investigated by this group, or whomever you designate to do that. And that occurred in each of the, appears to have occurred in each of the polling locations. And just like the canvas itself, where sometimes it was high and sometimes it was low. For instance, in Bridgeport, there were 16 provisional ballots on Monday, but only 8 by the time we got to the canvassing on Thursday. And you may be aware of that, but it was something that I didn't observe until I completed my report. And I would ask that those be further examined to determine what happened or how we can accommodate or account for those, because that's really the biggest role of the canvassing board. I'm not telling you something you don't already know, is to make sure that we don't lose ballots don't get misplaced or waylaid or heaven forbid, lost in the process. There are those kinds of concerns that, there were 1,500 absentee ballots that were mailed that didn't necessarily find their way back to the clerk, but in a timely fashion. I don't know how you make that any better. We're dealing with the Postal Service. Subjectively, a Kanawha County ballot arrived here at the clerk's office in Harrison County, and we received ballots from other counties as well. And so who knows how many of our ballots went someplace else simply because they were misdelivered. But we would like to participate and hope that we can accommodate and that everybody with this experience will have a smoother election come November. And I will answer questions, or you can feel free to rebut, I guess. It's your meeting, but those were my comments and thoughts, and I appreciate, again, on behalf of the Harrison County Republican Committee and myself, the opportunity to have participated in the manner that we have.
Ms. Rockwell, anything to add?
No, we're gonna have him again in November.
All right. With that, David, do you have any questions of them? Betsy, do you have any? Hearing none, we will take all this under advisement and make this part of today's record.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You, Bob.
See y'all.
All right, continuing on, public comment, Mr. Parker, we have none from Zoom, and Susan, we have none? All right, item 2 is consent agenda. What's the pleasure? All right, we have a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Payroll change notices.
We have none.
We have none. Exonerations, corrective tickets, joint property application. All right, what's the pleasure of the commission? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consolidation of land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Item 6 is considered approval of project fund requisition for the payment of costs associated with our Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District and improvement up there. Mr. Park.
We have no requisitions to approve, I did forward the commission a establishment of a excise tax debt service fund, that I'll need, signatures on today. It's establishing fund number 233, as outlined and requested by the auditor's office for the Charles Point, Special District Excise Tax District, the EODD board, and then the associated adjustments to our financial statement. So that's just for information at this point. I'll need signatures later today if possible.
All right, any questions of, Mr. Parker on that? David? Cassie?
Yes, sir. Well, right now, the way it looks is that the way the auditor's office is gonna do this, and I know they're doing it for transparency, but the way it's gonna look, even though we have no assets, it's gonna look like we have inherited, that the debt is on the Harrison County Commission on the books.
It will be, carried on our books, with a note and explanation of what the liability is for. We currently carry all the TIF bonds on our financial statement. Off the top of my head, that may be $50–60 million. I don't know that total number right now. And, the auditor's office, I've had discussions for years with, Stuart Stickle and his staff of why we're required to carry those on our financial statement, as well as this excise tax, bond associated with this excise tax. And, someone has to carry that liability on their books, even though we have zero obligation to fund that liability. And, the reason we carry it on our books is because we are the issuers of the bonds. I haven't agreed with that position in the past, but according to GASB rules and the auditor's office, that's a requirement.
Well, the way it's gonna look, and the way I'm seeing it, and the way I'm reading it, and I could be wrong, that's why I'm gonna ask you to do what I'm gonna ask you to do, is that if we have this debt on our books, what does it do to the value of the bond? And I cannot get a clear answer to that, because it's gonna look like we're top-heavy on debt as a county, even though, as you just described, we are not. And even though we're the pass-through, it's a reflection on us and our...
It is a liability carried on our financial statement since we are the issuer, but we have no obligation or no commitment to fund that liability, which is then explained in the notes. So if someone reads the notes, looks at the report and reads the notes, they should get a clear understanding of the financial report of the county, whether it be an unaudited financial report or an audited financial report. We're trying to finish, the reason for this establishment of this fund is so we can finish up our audit for the period ending June of 2018.
Let me ask you something. If we held off on anything we were gonna do until Tom Gainer was here to explain it before we asked the GASB, I just feel like we have no gain in this, we have no loss in this, but I don't understand why that debt's not, and I'll just say, and you guys, Ron, you've been doing this a long time. Why is that debt not reflected on Jamie and Woody and the airport instead of Harrison County Commission? And I don't have the answers to that. Nobody can give me.
We had a phone conference call, Zoom conference call with the auditor's office with Stuart Stickle, Sally Martin, Donna Corp, and maybe one other one, Tommy Amon, Mike Romano, who's the chairman of the EODD board, and myself. And I don't know if there was others on there or not that I can think of. But, Mike Romano questioned that extensively during that call, and with Stuart Stickle, and Tom Amon advised then that this complies with the requirement, and there is no way not to have that on our financial statement. So that discussion has already been had with Mr. Amon, as well as, Mike Romano and others associated on that call.
Not every other county do this.
Every other county that has TIF districts and associate, which is not as many. I mean, I don't know if any other county has an EODD board, maybe Ohio County. But Ohio County, Mon County, Harrison County, any other county that has TIF bonds, such as we have, does have to carry this liability on their books.
I hear what you're saying, but I also hear you agreeing with me that this doesn't seem right.
Since it's not a financial obligation of the county, but that's the reason for the notes of clarifying what is on our financial statement.
Help me to understand this, Dave, because, you know, you've done this at the airport. With the bond, which is the substance of it, it's like, let's face it, the whole tip is a bond, to free up. Okay, it's not. What if there's
We
value?
don't have to issue a bond for TIF. The airport, we have the TIF, and any of the tax difference between the time the TIF was set and whenever we decide, it's building us cash as it sits there without issuing any kind of debt. So it's actually, we have money in the TIF that was never gone out and borrowed.
Let me ask you this, and coach me. With ones that are bond allocated and are not generating cash, as you just said, what happens if somebody defaults and those bonds should not have any value?
The bond holders are out.
Bondholders are out.
Whoever holds the bond is out.
And that's already happened in this county more than once.
That's the risk they take when they buy the bonds.
Well, I'd love to know what other states do. You know, we didn't invent this rule for sure.
Other states do the same thing, according to Stuart Stickle, that is, a gas fee is nationwide.
Okay.
We don't have to do it if we don't want the auditor to, finish our books up so that we can go out and borrow money. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
You know, apologize. Say that again, Tony.
If we don't do this, and the auditor's not gonna certify our books, and we will not be able to go out and borrow money. That's the way I read this.
That would be correct.
So it's, we don't have to do it, we just know that we can't go out onto the market and borrow money.
The auditor would not certify our audit for any purposes. We would be ineligible for federal monies at that point, any federal money.
Well, the guy's not short here, something.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Okay, you have to have a certified audit to be eligible for federal monies.
One of the 5 to 10 counties in the state of West Virginia to make the whole economic world go, and you're almost punished for reinvesting in yourself.
Yeah, for somebody that just looks at the top numbers or the bottom numbers without reading the full report and footnotes, you know, it looks, you know, like there's a massive, liability out there. And there is a massive liability, it's just we have no obligation to finance that liability.
Just have to read the fine print,
Yes, correct,
which is basically what a note is.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Parker, on that?
No.
All right. Item 7 is, to review, discuss, and consider a resolution authorizing the county to request funds for qualified purchases and for expenditures by the Harrison County Clerk's Office as per 2020 HAVA CARES Act grant program. Mr. Parker, is that you or is that Ms. Jones?
Ms. Jones prepared the resolution and worked on the grant application and has more knowledge of the financial numbers, she and Ms. Thomas. But as I understand it, it's an 80-15 match, and assuming the commission would approve our obligation would be what, Ms. Jones?
About 25,000.
25,000, so the grants were,
The total, that I'm asking for is 167,575, which is the quote of 75 electronic poll books. And, our part, or the commission's part is 15%, so that would be 25,000. And Susan may want to elaborate a little bit more of what these are for. I do have some documents that kind of show, some brochures that shows what it is attached to the grant, but
all right. Mr. Parker, you want to, ask anything before the commission has any questions?
No, I know there was a question on the number of poll books versus the number of precincts and the number of precincts we may have in November. I did do some research on, if the commission wanted to reduce the number of precincts overall, and we're not talking regional voting sites, we're talking reducing from 67 precincts down to whatever the number is. It would be my opinion, we do not have time to accomplish that. That needs done by August 5th, if I'm not mistaken, first part of August, if the commission wanted to do that. And I don't see how we could reasonably approach consolidating precincts overall at this time. I think it would create some confusion, especially if we have regional sites again, and I don't see how we're going to get out of that unless something changes drastically with the COVID-19 between now and then. I don't know. But I did do some research in that regard, and I don't see that as a viable option at this point in time.
All right. Commissioner Treecost, any questions? David, any questions?
I have lots of questions, but I don't think it really matters.
Well, go ahead and put them on the record anyway. You're talking about the CARES money, right?
Well, I don't care about the CARES money, it's the amount of money we're spending on these and get by on 75, and we should then already reducing the amount of voting areas, and we should have had this all pre-planned out. We knew this was an issue months ago.
So are we asking?
I just don't understand, it's $25,000, 25,000 burned, then let's burn it, so that's what we're doing.
Okay. That generate any comments, Patsy? No? Mr. Parker?
No, I don't know if Ms. Thomas may have somebody on Zoom that could speak to that. I don't know if you do or don't.
I mean, Cam is,
Cam?
if anybody has any questions pertaining to the poll books, he's from
Mr.
ESNS.
Wilson, if you'd like to unmute yourself and,
I don't have any questions about the book.
Yeah, I'll just make a couple comments, if that's okay.
go right ahead.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me today. I have Bridget Richardson, who's the product owner, brought the product from infancy to market on the line as well. Couple highlights about the system. We're very proud of it. It's a wonderful poll book. We've really put everything, all of our resources, and the top team members in the industry in developing this. Jurisdictions like Nashville, Dallas, Texas, the state of Delaware are utilizing the product. So far in West Virginia, your neighboring county, Marion County, used it during the last election and loved it. It's unbelievably easy for poll workers, and it's just going to be a good tool for you guys with the modern voting system you have. I think a couple highlights about it that may be important, especially in the times that we're in now. From a security standpoint, it's absolutely the most secure poll book on the market. We've got a Windows LTSC license for the operating system that's supported through 2028. So we feel very confident about the security patches and the support standpoint up to 2028 on this system, which is unheard of when you look at other products that are, Apple based, and usually those products cycle in a 2 to 3.5 year time frame, and no more than 5 from a support standpoint. We also have a level of encryption with the system that again is not found in the industry. If the tablets are sharing information in a single polling location, before they talk to each other, everything is encrypted. All of the files, all of the voter information, everything's at AES 256 grade military standard encryption. From a poll worker perspective, it's an all-in-one unit. They're going to pull it out, set it on the table, and turn it on, and it's going to be incredibly user-friendly for them. So, Bridget, do you want to add anything? Are there any questions?
I think you nailed it, Cam. Thank you.
Okay.
For an annual licensing fee.
Yes.
There is, yep. So there's a 1-year warranty with the product, and then after the 1 year, you just license the software, and that's at $125 a unit. And that will, make all of the updated updates for the software available, which we are constantly, at this point, working on. I think we've had probably 3 or 4 updates in the last year for our customer base. So there is a license for the software, like with anything else from a software standpoint that you guys would procure. I think the one thing you guys should note, though, is that the way I understand it from the grant perspective is that it is an 85-15 split, but that you can put that first year after the warranty period, you can include that in the upfront price. So essentially, with the 85-15 split, you could add that annual fee to the total and request that as part of the money that you guys are trying to receive. So essentially, you could get 2 years without having anything from a reoccurring standpoint incurred.
Was that $125 a unit?
That's right.
And how many units?
75. 9,375
a year remaining.
9,000, David?
Yeah, 9,375.
So I would add to your application, I would add that number to the 167,575 and expect with high probability that you'll get the 85-15 split with that built into it.
He sent that, I think. He sent that information. I mean, I can get him, he can get you a new quote if you need it.
Other questions?
I don't understand why we're buying 75.
All right.
Don't fork out $9,000 a year afterwards.
We could be cutting it in half.
Or by a third. I don't think this has been looked at financially, but again, well, we definitely have the money, so let's spend it.
Greer, just any comments from your guys' perspective as an observer of what's going on and with the voting? Are you as a tool?
I'm not familiar with
Okay.
the tool, so I don't think it's a comment. I think it's consistent with what we asked for.
All right.
To update the software and the security, those are all positive.
All right. Mr. Parker, this is just a resolution. It's not a receiving of the funds.
This is a resolution to apply, as I understand it.
So we may or may not get the funds.
Exactly.
All right.
The motion report then is to apply.
All right, so we have a motion to apply. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed?
No.
Okay. All right. Item 8 is to review and, Regina, do you need anything signed?
Yes, I will need signatures, and it does request, signatures from all the commissioners.
Okay. All right.
And I will need to adjust that total
Okay.
before I,
Let us know.
okay.
Item 8 is to review, discuss, and consider vital service levy and the Centra Transportation levy for November 2020 election. And we'll take the Centra first. And Vanessa, you and Mr. Kramer, you can unmute yourself, and where it's appropriate, you can respond or what have you. Mr. Parker, tell us what we have.
Our current levy has this year, as well as beginning of the next fiscal year, to run through. And according to some of the information from the State Auditor's Office, Secretary of State's office, they recommend a minimum of 15 to 18 months to begin to looking at renewing levies, so you have adequate time to take a look at everything. So that's the reason for the time period now. So if the commission would move forward with renewing the Centra levy as well as the vital service levy, this would begin July 1st of 2022, and then 23, 24, 25, and then the last year would start July 1st of 2026. I did not run through the numbers yet until the commission made some initial decisions of whether we put it on the November ballot or potentially put it on the November ballot, and B, if we continue to with the levy as is, or how you wanted the approach. Of course, with Centra levy, it is a one-purpose levy. It's the funding for the Centra.
Yeah, let's just deal with Centra. So what you're saying is, if in 2021, you'd have to have a special election in order for the levy call.
Correct. You either have to have a special election or run it right up to the end of
Right, because
the period because of May.
assuming that that the voters don't approve it in November, then you still have a shot in the primary election in 2022, and then a general election to bring it back out?
You have a primary election of 2022, or if you call it a special election.
Or a special election?
Yeah, the primary of 2022 would be the last
And,
opportunity before July 1st of
and is this a majority vote of the voters, or is it a 60+1?
County commissions have to have at least 60%.
60%?
Yes,
Okay, is that the same for Centra then?
yes.
Okay. All right, questions? Vanessa?
Well, I'd like to know
I don't-
what they proceed.
We don't have any questions at this time.
Hold on, Dave. All right, hold on.
Well, there's various hoops you have to jump through, it has to be published, and
Just asking when the date.
I don't have that date in front of me, I don't have a
We
calendar.
would need to, for my comfort level, by the middle of August, this would need to be finalized for, I think it's 77 or 84 days, 77, I think, is the absolute deadline.
Because you have to have it to the printer.
Yeah, you have to have it to the printer and et cetera. So, August 1st to middle of August, we would need to, have it finalized and proceed.
And do we send out to look at these people's books to make sure they're correct and that what they're asking for is what we're willing to put on the list? Who do we hire for that?
We can request audits, which we've done of some of the individuals, well, of all the individuals covered under the vital service levy, and we could get Centra's most recent audits.
If you're gonna be on the levy, I'm not allowed to everybody's levy unless they've got their books certified and
Okay,
their budgets are gonna be certified out.
that's fair.
I'm gonna have taxpayers to pay money when we don't know if,
That's fair.
if it's not certified, correctly. So I'm just trying to understand how we're gonna get all this accomplished in this short amount of time.
Okay.
It's
Parker?
been worked on months ago.
We requested the
Willie?
financial information. Yes, go ahead, Vanessa.
I can't hear David very well. He's talking about certifying the buses. I didn't understand. I couldn't hear him.
It's,
Your financial records.
yeah, the financial records of what your most recent audit would have, when we need to
Okay.
get a copy of that. I'm not
get
sure
that
what
for you.
that is. And then your most recent financial statement, even if it's unaudited.
Why would it not be the last 4 or 5 years we've given them money?
It's a matter of getting that information from all of those entities sometimes is not easy. Let me put it
Ours
like that.
is no problem to get that.
Yeah, with
information.
Central, it wouldn't be any problem.
It's a discussion whether it's easy or not. If they can't supply us with financial records for the time we've given them the money and how they spent the money, then I think we have an issue about giving money out.
I would concur with that.
I just don't know why that would even be a statement that we would even take into consideration unless it seems kind of crazy to me to do that.
Now, some of these entities will not have an audited financial statement. For example, the senior citizen satellite location. I would be very surprised if they have an audited financial statement.
And then you have to send somebody out to do their financial statement, if we're gonna keep continuing to give them.
Actually, it's part of the senior overall with, commission has, committed X number of those dollars for satellites, and that's the way it was, Willie.
Yeah, we
10% or-
broke out a certain percentage for the satellite locations.
So the seniors do not know what those people have done with their money.
I do not believe so, because the check goes to the satellite locations directly,
Based on members.
yeah, based on the number of members.
That's good. I like that. Can I become a senior satellite?
You are a senior.
But we can contact all the different entities on there and get the financial information for the commission to review.
What if somebody wants to get new added to this?
Well, we've had the, request from the library, last meeting or a meeting before. That's one consideration the commission may want to consider.
And how do we determine if we don't wanna fund one of these projects?
That's the commission's call. That is the commission's call, strictly the commission's call. For, whether you add the libraries, the volunteer fire departments is another one, if you wanted to move, transition those to the vital service levy from general county.
So when can we expect all this information?
Well, we've got some in my office right now, I'll go through that, see what we have. I'll have Ms. Zell make contact with the others, and I'll scan what we've got and get it to the commissioners today.
All right, I think it would be appropriate, Mr. Parker, to, start yesterday on letting all these entities know that we need a certified, financial, audits or whatever it's, called. Is that what it is, David? And, for maybe multiple years, just getting the levy.
We can do that, not a problem.
That'll be up to them to, get the, CPAs or whoever it is, to do their audits. They should have them anyway, right?
Yes, yeah, I mean, some were in the process of getting, just as we are, I mean, they run behind possibly just as we do. But we will get the current information as we can.
Okay. Patsy, any comments?
Yeah, I do. Hey, Willie, how much would a special election cost us? Would it cost us $5,000?
Oh, no, more than that.
About 80, isn't it?
75,000 off the top of my head,
Yeah.
I'd say it's close to 100.
yeah.
So we do need to get on the November election to save that money?
You need to get it on a regular election, if, either November
Okay.
or May of 22.
The worst case is that for next fiscal year, you have a special election.
Okay, and would you guys, like to, Willie, David, Ron, would you like to have an open to the public, work session where we discuss what our thoughts are on the levy?
I have no issue with it after we get what we need from Willie to figure out who's getting what and how much we're gonna give and whether or not we have to increase the levy or decrease the levy.
We can do that as a special meeting or a regular.
I just think there's a whole lot of homework here that,
That's fine.
I agree with David, and I think
Yeah.
after this levy, what we do then is rather than wait till the midnight hour, we ask every other year for the 6-year period for this information, so that way we don't catch everybody by surprise. I think it would be a good thing for us to ask, if we're gonna give the taxpayers money, to have that every other year, because it's expensive,
Yeah.
and we don't wanna crush our people, so every other year would be more than fair. But I would like to share with you guys in an open meeting what my thoughts are and your thoughts are.
no, I don't have an issue with that, just as soon as we figure out what we've got, being requested. None of these people, to my knowledge, have sent in their new requests, or self-access still won't stay at 50, Pike County will stay at 50.
So we decided, okay,
Well, I know, but they can come in and request for their budget, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't wanna tell them 50 and they need 75.
okay.
Let me ask you on Centra, since that's a single item, that one could go forward. Vanessa, I'm assuming that you have the financial audits for the last several years with regard to the Centra?
We have all of the audits except the one ending this past June 30th. It won't be done until probably January or February.
Okay, but you've got the ones previous to that.
Oh, yeah, we've got them all.
Okay, so that one might be able to go.
5-year budget projection. And your 5-year budget projection?
We have our budgets for each year. We have never done a 5-year budget projection.
That's what we're doing, isn't it? Willie?
We are projecting out, yes, on certain areas there for 5 years, especially in light of
Please
this.
supply us with a 5-year budget projection.
Did you catch that,
Sorry,
Vanessa?
I can't hear David very well. What'd you say?
We need a 5-year budget projection.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Parker, what do you need from us? Seems like you got some homework.
Yeah, there's really no action at this point, it's just to,
Okay,
look at the process and get things in line if the commission so desires to
well, I think,
look at the November 3rd election.
I think the consensus of your commissioners here is certainly to have some accountability from all these for the multiple years. All right?
We can get that out, or we have some of it, I'll sort that and
All right.
get that to you.
Anything else? It's not on here, but any commission comments? David?
Yeah, I have some.
All right, you got it. Floor is yours.
First thing, and I think Susan will verify this with me, but the election hypothetically starts in 28 days, because you can start requesting absentee ballot, right?
Not the ballot, the application.
The application. So the election starts in 28 days. So we all know that it's gonna be hectic again and probably twice the voter turnout, I hope. So it's gonna be a busy time, and I think that, as a county organization, we need to get with the county clerk, and we need to work to make sure this runs just as smooth, or more smoothly than it did the last time. So Susan, any help as far as that goes, please, get with the commissioners or anybody else as far as how we're gonna handle, let's see what we can do to improve on the last.
Well, I mean, if you don't mind me speaking at this point in time concerning polling places, I believe we're gonna have to stick with the 67 precincts for this upcoming election, like Willie suggested or mentioned earlier, because of confusion for the voters. At some point, we gotta we cannot, at this point legally, do the regional voting. That is not legislatively possible. The only reason we could do it was because of the governor's order. And it's looking, I'm being told now that there won't be the absentee, but that doesn't mean something couldn't happen. Here again, I think we are going to be in an election of the unknowns. We don't know where we're gonna be in November or where we're gonna be in October for early voting. We need to figure out early voting as well. I'd like to find another spot. I have an idea. The poll books would be very beneficial, to help us with some of this. But the problem is you don't have a plan, because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Well,
But
just to give everybody an update. Back when this all started, I think we had 18 or 19 active cases, and we were considered a hot zone in Harrison County. COVID was running rampant, and everybody got wild and crazy and changed the election. As of today, we got 35 active cases in Harrison County. We got 57 people that are quarantined. So, at the rate we're going, we don't see, and the governor doesn't see, if you thought you had a hard time getting poll workers the last time, when we were at half of this, it's gonna be really interesting now. We're not going to be able to open up all polls.
well, we're gonna be able to, not that it's gonna help, but we can work with 3 poll workers.
I'm just saying, I mean.
Because if we try to combine them again, and you do more, and I definitely agree that we need more. 7 was not enough. I agree with that 100%. But you're gonna have to figure out how you notify the voters. I guess we send them a letter. It's the only way you can actually notify them, because a lot of them don't have social media. Some people don't read the paper. So, I mean, and where are you gonna do this in November? Who knows? We don't know. Is schools opening back up? So.
The other thing when I'm talking about the 35 active and 57 quarantine, other counties, on whatever, I'm not sure what our health department's doing, what we as commissioners should be doing, seeing this growth. We need to take this under advisement and start looking at how to slow down the spread of COVID in our county. But presently, I think it's about to even get more out of hand. And as commissioners and working with the health department, we need to have a plan of attack, at least by the next meeting, on how we're gonna handle this. Even though I know we're not having a meeting on the 22nd, if a special meeting needs called, we need to look into this issue, because I think, our health department's starting to get overwhelmed, and we need to offer all the help we can.
I agree 100%.
Other key points for my commissioners, I know that I asked for monthly reports from department heads. I'd like to, rescind that. I've asked for reports on PSDs. As we get them, I'd like to rescind that. I've asked for financials on the PSDs to be looked at and reported to us. I'd like to rescind that. I've asked and required staff working on combining the PSDs. I'd like to rescind staff working on that and leave that up to Mr. Treecost. He's done an excellent job. No longer require staff to attend PSD meetings. I have not seen a report on the PSD meeting in months. Commission staff at one time supplied us with fuel use by department. We no longer receive that. I'd like for that to be rescinded. Commission staff no longer reports to commission on vehicle damage. I'd like to rescind that they don't have to report that anymore. Commission to hire, this is no offense to you, Susan, a stenographer for all meetings so that we have up-to-date minutes when we come to the next meeting, that we know we're approving meetings and the whole entire meeting. And commission is not supplied proper documentation for meetings. So I'll pass this out to you all. The other things that I want to bring up, I feel that the commission do not so much follow the commissioners, but the airport's being ignored. Elections are being ignored. I don't feel we're helping Susan and the whole process for our citizens as far as polling places and making sure we run a good election in November. I think we need to work on that. It's requiring the financing for the annex. I know it's been a hold up with the state, but I think we don't really have that totally under wraps. And I've yet to see a real budget for rails to trails for this coming physical year, which I know is important to some of the commissioners sitting up here. So those are my bitches, and those are the things I'd like to see taken away because staff has more important things to work on. So if you're all in agreement or not in agreement, let me know.
Okay. Mr. Treecost.
Hey, Jim, it's 911. You on there?
There he is.
Hey, Jim, how did it go this week when Monday you started your new system, your new program?
He's not unmuted at the moment.
That's okay. Really, do you know if are there any hiccups?
I know they're still working at it. I don't know what their status is. I do not know.
Will you please do me a favor? And the only question I really have of him is I want to make sure that the texting to the responders. Please.
Patsy, can you hear me? I had a message saying that I got muted for some reason. How about now?
That's okay. Hey, thank you. Good morning. Is everything going smooth out there?
Things are going as smooth as possible at this point. Our transition began yesterday morning. We are still in the midst of it. Credit to Director Bump, who has led this project. He is extremely busy today, working on the technical side of things, trying to put out little fires here and there, overall, as well as can be expected. I would like to go on record thanking two entities, if I may, first being the County Commission. Thanking you for your support and your approval and your guidance through this process. We could not do it without you. Secondly, I want to give a big shout out to our 911 dispatchers. In the course of about 6 weeks, we've asked them to do an awful lot. Bear with us while we updated our radio system and then the transition to Paycom. And now on top of that, we asked them to wrap their heads around a new way of dispatching. Very similar in some regards, different in others. It is bringing more to the table, but we've asked them to adopt, adapt, and improve a tremendous amount over the course of the last month and a half, and I cannot thank them enough. We can have all the fancy equipment in the world, but it does not work unless we have people in those chairs answering the phones and manning the radios.
Hey, Jim, I know I can say this, and you know, when we do talk amongst ourselves, we couldn't be happier with what you're doing out there. You know, you're the first line of defense for our citizens and Sioux County. And thank you. Okay, one question, and I'll let you go. I'm ready to get out of here myself after Ron talks. Is the texting to the responders going through?
That was under some review and exam and fine-tuning yesterday. It is my understanding that it is, for the most part, operational. We are continuing to monitor that and a number of other aspects of it. Some things according to plan, some things not so much, but as we identify them, we are, once again, adopt, adapt, and improve. So we are moving forward with that.
I love everything you said. Thank you so much. You know we're a phone call away, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, and thank you to the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Does that bring any more thought, David? Hearing none, nothing else, Patsy? Sir, you've been patient with us here observing. I'll give you the last parting comment if you would like before we adjourn.
Well, I'm a novice when it comes to this parliamentary procedure here. I'm still Southern, and I was curious to know how I can address the commission concerns and issues.
The question loud one more time.
How I can address the commission. Am I allowed to speak now?
We're going to let you speak. The way to do it is you can get on the agenda.
Okay.
And that's a time certain. Under public comment, which we do at the first of, anybody can sign up and have public comment. And at that point, we will not give any two-way action or response. We'll let you air out whatever you want to air out at that particular time. But to have two-way, the way to assure that is to actually get on the agenda, just the same way that Mr. Greer and his group did to actually speak to the commission.
And how do you do that? How do you do that?
Oh, we do that by just calling our commission office and ask to be put on the agenda.
Who do I talk to when I call?
I'll give you a card.
He'll give you a card.
All right.
And you're welcome now. We'd love to hear.
Well, I would like to ask.
Identify yourself for the record.
Okay, my name is Phil Southern. I live at 259 Carr Avenue in town.
Okay.
And in the Telegram on Sunday, there was an excellent article by a guy named Robert Westbrook. I don't know if any of you saw that article. It had to do with the annex and how it's to be funded, in essence, and that was a question I'd like to ask. And another question I'd like to ask about that is, Mr. Westbrook broached the subject of the possible loss of revenue from the Harrison Park Station and the Robinson Run Mine, which these things could be brought to reality real soon, because the Robinson Run Mine is in bankruptcy, and the Harrison Park Station is under attack by the people that want to eliminate fossil fuels. And so I'm sure that is a huge amount of revenue for this county. And I'd like to ask the question, with the possible expenditures of this annex that we're talking about, how that's going to be funded, and if has been taken into consideration if that revenue is lost.
All right. Let's do this, Mr. Parker. See if Mr. Southern can be on the agenda so that we can have some a meaningful discussion with regard to the funding. By that time, you're going to know anyway what the funding possibilities are. And with reference to Robinson Run Mine, David, you and Patsy may know better than I, but I was to understand that somebody was buying Murray Energy out of that mine, and from my people that I deal with, contacts at Mon Power, is that it's going to continue to produce coal for our power plant. That's, unless you guys, yeah, so I don't think that it's going to shut down. I think it's just somebody's buying it out from under Murray Energy, I think.
Well,
that's
problematic, I'm sure.
I understand. But Mon Power feels, my contacts at Mon Power feel very comfortable that the mining will continue on that conveyor belt to bring it from there to Mon Power to the power plant up there.
Of course, you have to understand, though, that the Democratic platform
Yeah.
just to outlaw fossil fuels.
Yeah, I understand.
And if that does happen, that place is.
Saying it and doing it is two different
Well, I hope
things.
so.
Yeah.
Because I know
My
it's,
daddy was a coal miner.
and so was mine,
Yeah.
and my grandfather,
Okay.
and his grandfather.
And his grandfather. There you go.
We're not gonna meet next week, so it would be the 29th,
Yeah.
okay?
You get, before you leave, Mr. Parker will get you on the agenda. All right, Mr. Sutherland? We thank you very much for, your attendance. Anything else, commissioners? Hearing none? All in favor, say aye.
I need some signatures from the commissioners on items.
All right, Willie, whatever you need.
You can call me, if you have email, you can send me